All right, folks, in his new book, show the graphic, please.
It's a good-looking graphic.
A black man in the White House. Yes, very creative, so colorful. A black man in the White House, Barack Obama and the triggering of America's racial aversion crisis. Cornell presents stunning new research that highlights how deep America's racial fault lines continue to be. In the book, he declares that the rise of Donald Trump was a predictable backlash from America electing its first black president. Cornell, this is interesting. I have been saying this, and you and I have been talking about this as well. And this is what I've always said. In the history of America, black success has always been followed by white backlash.
No, I think that's true. First of all, Roland, I love you, brother. Thank you for having me on. It's true, and what we found, and I've been doing, started doing polls in battleground states in 2008 around racial aversion, sort of figuring out sort of how was racism, because look, racism is real in America. Let's just start there. We know that, right? How racism was going to impact the 2008 electorate, and I kept it going throughout his presidency, and I ended it in the primary season because it was getting too expensive. I need to put this book out. And what you find is that, you know, all this conversation immediately after President Obama's election in 2008, you had all this post-racial conversation going on, right? And I was in Paris, walking around Paris, you know, doing some work with some panels in Paris when the French would come up to me and tell me that America was post-racial, right? So I found out we was post-racial when I was in Paris. And that was this ideal that we had reached a major racial milestone. But the truth of the matter is we did have a short rally effect, but that effect ended fairly quickly, and what you saw was a spike in racial aversion and antagonism in the data, where you did have a backlash, and it was a predictable backlash to the first time the vast majority of whites, their political will did not have an outcome that they wanted. This is part and parcel of the change that we're seeing in America, and this is, and look, not as a Democrat or Republican, but this is sort of how this is the struggle that we're going to have to deal with, right? You know, Du Bois said, look, the problem of the 20th century is the problem of the color line. That continues to be true today. And we are confronted with it today in a way that we haven't been confronted with it in the past, because quite frankly, we do have black and brown power in a way, politically, in a way that we've never seen before. We would all, you know, there was an old saying in the South, Roland, that blacks and whites could always get along to a certain extent. That was not a problem with blacks and whites getting along. The problem was blacks couldn't have power. Now blacks,
now it's a question.
And now it's a question of power.
And I remember having a conversation in 2009 with John Avlon. We were both of us were at CNN at the time, and we were in the newsroom. And I said, John, you are about to see a shift. He goes, what do you mean? I said, you are about to see the beginnings of what I call white minority resentment. I said, even though the numbers don't bear it out, I said, this increase in Latino, with the demographics, with African Americans having a black president, I said, this is about to shake this thing to its core. I said, because in the history of America, at this point, whites have never had to share power. And it is interesting, Pat Buchanan has written about that. People call Pat Buchanan white nationalist, white supremacist, and we know all the crazy stuff he said, but he has literally written, he said, and he wrote in one of his columns, you know, the fear is, I hope they don't do to us what we did to them. Yeah.
Well, and that's what you have here. Look, and Congressman Hastings just pointed on this. We are in a crisis. I mean, our government, this building, this Congress, it doesn't work anymore. We are polarized in a way. Look, when people say they want to take the country back, we should take them at their word for it. And sort of what does that mean? And this Trump effect is not going away, right? So we've got to deal with how do we come together and deal with the racial ghost here, and we share power. We're at a crisis because, like Hastings say, you know, they're blocking things in a way that they've never done before. You have the legislator in North Carolina blocking black people from voting, and you see that particularly in the border states with the rise of the Hispanic vote, where our democratic values are even being challenged because of fear of black and brown power.
I have a question, Cornell. Do you find black people generally being interested in power or assimilation? Because there's a difference. And what do you think black people generally are?
Black.
I don't think the average black person has that conversation, right? I wish the regular black person would have that conversation about black power and not be afraid of the term sort of power, because every other interest group in this country, they exert their power, be it the gay and lesbian community, be it the feminist community. You know, they exert.
Two white communities.
They exert their competing interests is what our country is built on. But when we talk about sort of African Americans. Issues and putting those issues to the forefront, and African Americans voting around those issues, then it becomes a problem. We're not even supposed to talk about black issues, right?
Well, but it's funny. I mean, I literally spoke to a group where black is in their name, and they stood up talking about how they were going to create this program to drive minority business, and they were giving me this award, and I got up there and I said, what's that B stand for in y'all in your acronym? They said black. I said, well, how in the hell y'all just come up here and talk about you want to increase minority business? Why are y'all afraid to say black?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the whole room was like,
absolutely.
Like, oh my goodness, I can't believe he just. I said, I don't understand why you're afraid to say that. I said, it's like I'm not understanding it. And trust me, they were not happy with me. I said, but I'm sorry. I said, a woman's group. They ain't going there and saying, look, we here to talk about opportunities for both genders. No. They being specific.
And I think we should have explicit conversations about the difference between matching white folks, looking like and have what they have, and being a powerful independent group among other independent, powerful groups in this country. Sometimes we don't know the difference. We think if we look white enough, since we look like power, we have power, and we don't look like power.
And let me say this as well, because I want to wrap on this point. When Michael Steele was elected as chair of the Republican National Committee, basically, let me be real clear, y'all, because I've had discussion on the show, I talked with Michael, and so this ain't no private conversation. Basically, it was like, no, we didn't elect you to talk about these things here. Ralph, they even tried to limit how much he had to get approved. I think it was like if they tried to spend anything over $5,000, he had to get approved from a committee when the previous chair didn't have that. And he said, wait a minute, time out. What's going on here? Michael Steele got called to Capitol Hill, where the leadership told him, you don't talk policy.
Everything you have just said is absolutely true. And the fact that Michael Steele is no longer or lost the chairmanship of the RNC, he was done in by people inside of his own cabinet.
No, I'm just trying to tie. I just want to tie folks to understand that this ain't just about Obama. This is even within the RNC. That look, it was a different standard where the rules were changed when the brother became chair.
Right, but this is about power, and everybody needs to understand that power is a limited commodity, and those who have it are not going to give it up, and those who want it are going to have to.
Final comment.
But that's the crisis moment, right? Because you have us playing the zero-sum game, and where whites see it as, well, we're losing power to them, and we don't want to give it up without a fight. That's a zero-sum game that's going to lose us the future.
Well, really quickly, power concedes nothing without demand. Frederick Douglass was right, and it's still true today.
But you got to feel worthy of power.
Well, let me tell you something right now, folks. On this whole issue of power, this whole issue of where do we go for next, you want to watch this show next Thursday, because I have a special commentary that I'm going to deal with this on this issue of power and what's next. I'm going to address all the other drama that's been going out here. Trust me, next Thursday, you want to hear this. I'm just giving y'all a week to prepare. The book is The Black Man in the White House, Barack Obama and the Triggering of America's Racial Aversion Crisis by Cornell Belcher. We showed it 7 times. Are you good?
Thank you, brother.
You good?
I love you.
Yeah, all right then.
Black
all
love.
right then.
Sign
a damn book. Up next, Kevin Whalen will join me to talk about his new music. It is 8 before top of the hour, News 19 TV1.
Hello, I'm Brenda Lawrence, Congresswoman from the Michigan 14th District. You've got one vote. Use it.